are back with comedian David Boyle, and I'm quitting alcohol. So a couple of weeks ago it was Charlie Watts, and this week it is fucking Norm Macdonald. It's like God doesn't want me to do Boyle Breaks history anymore. But Norm Macdonald, fuck. This one stings. He was the funniest man on the planet. And when I say he's the funniest man on the planet, that also means he's the funniest person on the planet. If he wasn't the funniest, there was no one funnier. I will cede to you he may not be the funniest out there by himself individually. There might be one or two other people out there with him, but I think he may be out there by himself. It's not even just his stand-up. His stand-up was great as well, but his whole life was his body of work. You just type in Norm Macdonald into YouTube, and no matter fucking what it is, it's funny. Whether it's his stand-up, whether it's him being interviewed, whether it's him on a podcast, whether it's him hosting the fucking YouTube awards or whatever the fuck it was, and slamming all the YouTube retards. Whether it was his moth joke on Conan that went for about 20 minutes and had no real punchline, he just kept dragging it out. Fucking gold. His roast of Bob Saget where he's just reading out fucking old school jokes. He went on The View and accused the Clintons of killing a guy. To Barbara Walters. Do you know how much balls you need to do that? And he made it funny too. Barbara Walters is fucking yelling at him like the cunt she is, trying to cover it up. Keep it fucking quiet. The crowd's laughing and then she goes, "You're meant to be funny." And the crowd's laughing. Shut the fuck up, you old bag. But to have the balls to do that that's what everyone would like to do. But having the balls to actually do it is a different fucking story. And Norm had the fucking balls. He's the comedian's comedian. Norm was the guy comedians look up to. Like Attell, fucking Stanhope, Louis, Burr. All these guys looked up to fucking Norm. Norm was the fucking best. He was the last ever stand-up comedian on the fucking Letterman show. David Letterman handpicked him to be the last fucking comedian. He could have chosen anyone in the entire world. I mean, it was the dream of dreams for any comedian just to get on Letterman. And Norm was chosen to be the final ever comedian. That's rarefied air. That is a position of one. And he fucking knocked it out of the park too. The set was great. And then the end, you've got to go watch it. A few fucking tears came rolling out of the old Boyle's eyes as well. Fuck, it was good. And that's all I've been doing today, has been going down a Norm Macdonald fucking rabbit hole, which I do about 2 or 3 times a year anyway. He did this podcast. It was just a small podcast. I think some fucking random dude just called him up and asked him to do a podcast. And I found it years ago and I'd listen to it once a year. Norm Macdonald talks about dying, religion, consciousness, the afterlife, and he's just on the money with all of it. And I would just listen to that podcast and I'd be blown away. And it would only have like 1,000 views. I think like 987 of them are from me. But I was looking for it today and I can't find it fucking anywhere. You type in Norm Macdonald, there's fucking millions of other things. But this little fucking podcast he did, I can't find it fucking anywhere. I think I sent it to Door like 5 years ago. So I'm going to have to scroll through 5 years of inane fucking Door bullshit to find it. But it really stung this morning when I saw Norm had passed away, because he's one of those guys that you like as a comedian. You dream of somehow, someday being in a situation where Norm Macdonald's watching a gig of yours and you have a great set and he comes over and says something cool and you become friends, you start hanging out, you open for Norm. That's like the dream. It's a fantasy, but fantasy is good for fuel sometimes. But now that fantasy is fucking gone and it fucking sucks. And here's the difference between Norm and most other people. He must have been aware of it. I'm sure he was aware of it. But he built his legend. He became a legend. Not because the stories he told, that's one thing. To tell great stories is one thing. But other people telling stories about you makes you a legend. And if you go on YouTube, just about every single comic of note over the past 30 years has some insane Norm Macdonald story. And they're all fucking good too. So other people help build his legend for him, All he needed to do was be himself. And that's why his entire life is really his body of work. And it is more or less faultless. He also wrote a book that I never got around to reading, which I'm going to order tonight. But the final 2 pages of the book got sent to me tonight, and I think they're worth reading it out. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read out the final 2 pages of his book. Rest in peace, one of the funniest men to ever walk the planet. Also born on the 17th of October as well. He was in good company. Anyway, here's the last 2 pages of his book. There is the way things are, and then the way things appear. And it is the way things appear, even when false, that is often the truest. If I am remembered, it will always be for the 4 years I spent on Saturday Night Live, and maybe even more than that by the events surrounding my departure from that show. As long as SNL exists, then so do I. When people come to see me do stand-up, it is because somewhere in their memory, I live on SNL. Dressed as a young Burt Reynolds, insisting Alex Trebek refer to me as Turd Ferguson, and they come to see me and I'm old and fat, and I don't mention SNL, and I do my answering machine joke, and they are happily disappointed. After the show, they stand beside me and take pictures, the way you would with a donkey at the side of a road. They tell me they are big fans and they don't care what their girlfriends say. They understand me, even though they know good and well that nobody else does. I'm dry, they say. The next time I come to their town, they don't show up. It can be difficult to define yourself by something that happened so long ago and is gone forever. It's like the fellow at the end of the bar telling no one in particular about the silver medal he won in high school track, the one he still wears around his neck. The only thing an old man can tell a young man is that it goes fast, real fast. And if you're not careful, it's too late. Of course, the young man will never understand this truth. But looking back now, I can see that my life since SNL has been a full sprint, trying with all my might to outrun the wolves of irrelevancy snapping at my heels. It has all been in vain, of course. They caught and devoured me years ago, but not completely. Lorne would see to that. My foot would still make a vague imprint. Myself would still cast a faint shadow. And years later, I would write a book. And not only write it, but be in it as well. I think a lot of people feel sorry for you if you were on SNL and emerged from the show anything less than a superstar. They assume you must be bitter, but it is impossible for me to be bitter. I've been lucky. If I had to sum up my whole life, I guess those are the words I would choose, alright? When I was a boy, I was sure I'd never make it past Moose Creek, Ontario, Canada. But I've been all over this world, except for Europe, Asia, Australia, Africa, and South America. Oh, and Antarctica, but that's really split in hairs. I mean, how many people have ever been to Antarctica? I never expected to be any more than a common labourer and would have considered myself lucky to achieve that. But I was blessed with so much more. I'm a stand-up comedian and have been for over a quarter of a century. I've performed thousands of hours from a small club in Ottawa, Ontario, all the way to a small club in Edmonton, Alberta. Sometimes I get big laughs and think I'm the best stand-up in the whole world, and other times I bomb and I think I'm not even in the top 5. Before I was famous, I had a whole bunch of jobs where all I needed was boots. People would look right past me. Or if they did look at me, it was with a mean look. But when I got famous, people would look at me and smile and wonder where they knew me from. If they flat out recognized me, they'd laugh and dance like they'd won a prize. And I'd just stand there and smile and feel the warmth from their love. So the fame made the world, which is a real cold place, a little less cold. And as for my gambling, it's true. I lost it all a few times, but that's because I always took the long shot and it never came in. But I still have some time before I cross that river. And if you're at the table and you're rolling them bones, then there's no money in playing it safe. You have to take all your chips and put them on double six and watch as every eye goes to you and then to those red dice doing their wild dance and freezing time before finding the cruel green felt. I've been lucky. God bless you, Norm. That's it for tonight. I'll see you the fuck later.